What's going on, my friend?
Hey, bud. Good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Absolutely. We were talking before we hit record about that idea of stepping from one platform into the other and trying to find
Yeah.
confidence to get through that new situation. It can be tricky.
Yeah, it can be. It can be, especially when you're not really clear and what your are and where you're heading. You know, yeah, it could be a challenge for sure.
That's where I love the idea of this conversation because spending a lot of time out on the trails and everything, there's a lot of maps to look at.
Hmm.
And that's the idea behind that is to keep us oriented and keep us on track.
Yep.
And in those situations of stepping from one arena to the other where it's really overwhelming, I feel
Hmm.
like, building these mind maps are
Yeah.
such a powerful tool. Talk to me a little bit about the concept of mind mapping.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you how I came about it, how it came into my life. Well, I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I went to Washington State University, played some years in professional football. From there, I kind of pivoted, got into the mortgage industry in Southern California, built one of the largest privately owned mortgage companies in Southern California, living this millionaire lifestyle and making more money than I ever did as a professional football player. But then when the mortgage meltdown hit, and the recession started, the Great Recession, I literally lost everything. I mean, business, lifestyle, wife, kids, I mean, everything really was the lowest part of my life. And I was kind of forced to move back to my mom's house just to kind of reset and rebuild my life. And in that time, all I took to with me to my mom's house was my mountain bike, some gym clothes, and this big ass box that I had that was full of motivational tapes, CDs, books, and things of that nature that I accumulated over the years. And I knew I had to go back into that box to kind of get my mind right and kind of reset myself. But there was this book inside of there called the Mind Map book by Tony Buzan. I don't remember ever buying it. I think somebody may have given it to me or something, but for whatever reason, it resonated with me. So I decided to read it and made one of the most powerful decisions I ever made at that point is because I decided to mind map all of the contents that were in that box. I mean, it was Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Power of Now. I mean, Wayne Dyer. I mean, all of the top motivational books that you can think of was in that box. So I spent about 3 months mind mapping all of the contents of that box. I mean, all day, every day. That's all I did. And it was my first introduction to the power of mind mapping, which a mind map essentially is just a visual information management tool. Anything a person needs to think about or can think about, a decision, problem solving, goal setting, dealing with stuff in your past, dealing with new opportunities or adventures, whatever it is that you got to think about, a mind map is a way to get it out of your head and put it in a visual form so you can get greater perspective of it. Like you mentioned a map, you're looking at that map because it gives you greater perspective of where you're trying to go. What you're trying to do. Just thinking in my mind, just imagine if your map was actually like a paragraph. You're out in the middle of the woods and you got to hold just words that are telling you make a right at this tree or make a left at that tree or go to this rock and do. It would be very hard to really visualize and see and navigate your way through that. So a mind map is very similar to, those maps that we're used to in that it gives you a 10,000 foot perspective of whatever it is you got to think about. And what I mean, whatever, I mean, whatever you got to think about, you can literally just start mapping things out to gain greater perspective. And that's what I did essentially when I was rereading those books. I was doing what is called active learning. So when people normally read books, you normally underline things or highlight things or write in the margins and that nature, but you probably never really reference it again and probably didn't really understood or really whatever you underlined didn't really resonate with you on a deep level. But when you mind map books, you're really hunting for key words and phrases of that chapter or that paragraph. What is the one key word or phrase that I can take from everything that author just shared with me to add to my mind map? That's called active learning, when because you're really engaged with the learning versus just kind of going through it. So when I went through all of that process for 3 months, it really reset me in a very powerful way because I started to realize that what all of these authors and thought leaders were really talking about was, the purpose of life is just simply to love every second you have of it. It's just to be in love with life and live it to the fullest. Live your best life. And they all had their different approaches and strategies, on how to do it, and their guidance on how to do it. But ultimately, that's all they were all talking about was just you, life is meant to be loved. And Tony Robbins and all of them are saying, here's how I recommend you try. So I took from that, all right, I need to really reset my life. Then I pivoted from there and realized that the best way to truly love my life, first and foremost, is to map out who am I? Who am I? Who am I really? I'm more than just my dad. I'm just a father of somebody. I'm more than a son, a brother, or whatever job title I have. But who am I really at my core? And what do I really want my life to be about in a depth, in a deep manner, not just a surface level? And so I started mapping that out to really get clear on, what my life is going to be about as it regards to health, wealth, success, and happiness were the key components. So for you and your audience, if you can just imagine in the middle of a blank piece of paper, I just put I am in the center. Then I put health, wealth, success, and happiness around there. Then I just started brainstorming, what does health really mean? Everybody says they want to be healthy, but what really does that mean? Then I ultimately, after months and I mean hours and hours of grappling with this, I came up that what's most important for me health is spiritual health, mental health, and physical health. So I put those to my mind map. So I am health, then I had subtopics next to health saying physical, spiritual, and mental. So I went down to wealth then. I said, what is wealth then? I want to have some wealth, but is it truly just money that I want an abundance of? Then after grappling with that, I realized that, wait a minute, no, I had a lot of money, but wasn't necessarily happy. Money doesn't necessarily bring happiness. So
Right.
I came I came to the idea that for wealth, I wanted an abundance of positive emotions. I wanted to feel good. I also wanted a wealth of specialized knowledge because I realized that if I have a wealth of skills at anything, money will come. When you're really good at something, you'll find, money will come to you if you're really an expert at something. Then naturally, I wanted a wealth of freedom, which also included financial freedom, stress freedom, and drama. Then I moved over to the other side of the map, success. What do I want success in? Then I determined it was going to be relationships. I wanted to have successful relationships, wanted to have successful results, achieve my goals essentially, and I wanted to have successful rewards. How was I going to celebrate achieving these goals? So I got clear on that. Then I moved over to the other side of my mind map, which was happiness. What does happiness mean to me? I want to be happy in my life. Everybody wants to be happy, but I don't know how many people truly define what does it really mean to you to be happy. And again, after hours and hours of grappling with this, I came to realize that for me to truly be happy, I have to feel blessed for my past. Meaning that when I think about my past, there's no guilt, there's no regret, there's none of that stuff that a lot of people fail to release, which makes them miserable in the present. So I have to look at my past, the goods and the bad, and feel blessed for those experiences. The learning lessons that I got from the challenges and the bad things. And with that, I also had to feel grateful for my future. So when I look to my future, I don't need to be scared. I need to be happy and excited and grateful for all of the good things that's coming to me. And I come to realize, Brian, that if I felt blessed for my past, grateful for my future in the present moment right now, then I would be happy. So if you guys can imagine, I had all of that on this I am mind map that I call a day, and I zoomed out of it. It was really um, it turned out to be like a playbook, like my Ten Commandments, my personal constitution, my GPS for my life, kind of deal. It was like this is all of the key components of my life. Then as I started to grapple and go through, all right, what do I need to do to have great spiritual health or wealth? And I started coming up with action steps. I went from being broke and homeless at my mom's to making over $250,000 a year in a salary in less than 8 months in this process because I got really clear with who I am, what I want my life to be about, and where I'm heading, which transformed my life right away. And it was all because of the clarity that mind mapping gave me, using that mind map to really see what I was thinking, and to our point earlier, we were talking about when people are embarking on new adventures or wanting to do new things that they've never done before. I found, and especially a lot of what I find with a lot of the people that I've been coaching and training for the last 5 or 6 years with this, is that that fear reduces, confidence increase because, regardless if it's something you've never done before, like public speaking or whatever that may be, once you get really clear on who you are, what you're doing and why you're doing it and where you're heading, there's the fear doesn't exist like it used to. It's like, wait a minute, all right, I know where I'm heading, so I'm confident. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing this kind of deal. And it really empowers people. So that's in a nutshell on how my journey with mind mapping, some of the powerful impact that I had with mind mapping, and why I'm so passionate about just sharing the power of this tool with the world, because I know a lot of people are unnecessarily suffering and not loving and living their best life. And I think mind mapping can really help transform that for a lot of people.
See, I love the correlation there, and I like to find different practical ways to bring in the adventure aspect of it.
Hmm.
And I think a lot about planning for deer season because we pull
Hmm.
out the map, we start looking at all these different great points. And the next logical step is to actually put some boots on the ground and go explore them.
Action
And to
steps.
me, yeah, and to me, that's a big part of what mind mapping is. I had the same kind of fall from where I was at in life, where you hit rock bottom and you got to rebuild.
Yeah.
And for me, that was realizing that depression and anxiety had a stranglehold on who I was. I was just wearing a
Yeah.
simple mask.
Hmm.
And to step out into the environment, get on some trails and take a nice long hike and
Hmm.
realize that I can craft all these different things from the environment if I simply slow down
Yep.
and I look at where I want to go. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's one of the key aspects to really developing that core system of your
Hmm.
values.
Yeah.
Being honest with yourself and really looking at
Yeah.
the long-term effect of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very powerful. And what I've been finding again in my coaching and teaching and the books that I have written, the courses that I've created and workshops that I do around the country and things of that nature is that getting really clear on who you are and what your life is about is so empowering, in that you not just get confidence, but you are able to take action in ways that are in alignment with who you're trying to be. So it's not like one of those things of, um, do I take this job or not? The only for a lot of people will take a job only to realize that it wasn't really the job they should have had and they're miserable with the new job, or is this relationship the right relationship for me? And they get into it and realize it wasn't the right relationship, or all of these things of uncertainty that people go through, or actions they take that they find out that it wasn't really the correct action or the most fulfilling action they should have took. It's primarily that I'm finding is because people haven't really got clear on who they are and what they want. You know what I mean? It's like they just kind of bouncing through life, and be like, damn, this after 5 years of this marriage, I'm really miserable. And they probably seen so many red flags leading up to that that could have prevented them or saved them a lot of time had they been really clear on who they are and what they want in a relationship or who would be the perfect match for them in that relationship. So I've been doing a lot of good work around this with students, student athletes, especially in a college area, where they get really clear on who they are and what they want to do. So they're avoiding a lot of peer pressure things and a lot of mistakes and a lot of regret because they're like, no, I'm not doing that. Why are you not doing that? Because that's not who I am. I'm clear on who I am, and that doesn't align with who I am. So I'm not going to take that drug or, do this action. And I can say it in confidence, because I know clearly who I am, not guessing who I am or not thinking I'm someone that somebody told me I should be, my parent or somebody else told me I should be this. No, I made a conscious choice on who I am is really another powerful way that the I am mind map really helps a lot of folks.
And that comes down to actually a piece that I was working on before we got together about Crazy Horse. And one of the most important principles there being know yourself.
Mhm.
And in
Yep.
order to really get to know yourself, it's about going inward
Going
and
inward.
really looking deep at those things, but also reflecting on where you've been and
Yeah.
realizing that they don't define who you are or who you're going to
Mm-mm.
become. You
Mm-mm.
always are changing. As,
Always.
as long as you're willing to embrace that change
Hmm.
and direct it into a positive light to highlight those core values
Yeah.
that are within your heart, you're never going to go wrong. You might stumble along the way,
Right.
and that's okay.
That's okay. It's a part of a growth. It's part of their life. It's part of growing, but you know that you're stumbling and falling in the direction you want to head. Versus stumbling and
That's
falling and
exactly
don't
it.
know where you're gonna land. Kind of deal. Which is super cool, man. Yeah, but it's truly, truly powerful. And there's one thing that a tool that I would like to share with you guys. Out of the thousands and thousands of possibilities a person can create a mind map for, I am is probably the most important one that I would recommend people start with. And if you or anyone has any, questions or needing assistance with that, you can go to my website and I can help you. There's a lot of resources there, but really passionate about that. But the other t- two I would say that are just as important, um, it stems from this template I created. It's called the 5 W's and H. It's a template that is very, very powerful for problem solving, decision making, and things of that nature. And here's how it looks. So for like a problem, you can set the name of the problem, again, a blank piece of paper, and just put whatever you want to title your problem is or your issue is that you're trying to map out. You put it in the center, and for right around the circle of there, you put who, what, when, where, why, and how. Very simple. Name of the problem. It could be a decision, whatever, but you just put the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and how, and that one H there. And now you just brainstorm each one of those subtopics. If it's a problem, who's involved with this problem? Who should be involved with this problem? Who shouldn't be involved with this problem? Who's being impacted by this problem? Once you ask yourself some great who questions around there and just add keywords and short phrases, then you move to what? What really is this problem? What is the impact of this problem? And ask a bunch of what questions around that problem. Then you move to where, where is this problem happening? Where should it happen? Where shouldn't it be happening? Then you go to when. When is this problem happening? Then you go to why. Why is this problem happening? Ask a bunch of why questions around there. Then you go to how. How can I resolve this question? This problem and things of that nature. Once you go through this process, taking your time, asking some really thought-provoking questions, and now after you complete that process, and now you zoom out and look at the totality of your whole map, oh man, I'm telling you, brother, always, yes, always, the solution to your problem is clear. It's evident. It illuminates because now you see all of the key components of the problem. And I find that a lot of people, when they're stressing and depressed or going through some mental anguish, it's primarily because it's a lot of stuff that's swirling in their minds that it's going so fast and it's so confusing and it's so, you know, unclear about a lot of stuff that's swirling. That in my practices, I've been finding, especially with the using the 5 W's and A's for problem solving. I work clients through this process, and you can all of a sudden just see their energy just kind of just release because the problem is no longer inside of them. The problem is now out there on the map, and they're looking at it, from a third person perspective, and it's able to give them open their mind up to really, be open to possible solutions that they never could see when it was stuck in here. It was just swirling here. And that's the same thing with decisions. If it's decisions that you got to make, who, what, when, where, why, how, affected by this decision and all these things, and you go through that same process and step back, you'll know what decision that you need to make. That's very big that I wanted to offer you guys, you and your listeners, the IMI map and that 5 W's and H will really cause and create positive change in your world, yeah, right away if you just go through that process.
I think it's all about getting the words onto paper so you can
Hmm.
visualize, kind of
Yep.
organize things a little bit. But as we
Yep.
come toward the end of our time, real quick, you got to let people know how to get in touch with you, what you got coming on, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Anybody can reach me at johndiggs.com. It has all of my information on there. I'm on all of the social media platforms. Keep in mind that when you hear mind mapping, it's mainly for a certain type of use of mind maps. Most people that ever heard of mind maps, they only think of it as it relates to project management, note taking, and brainstorming. But my style of using mind maps is more for personal development and peak performance and optimal living. And so I call my style of mind mapping Mapineering. So when you see the term Mapineering, that's specifically talking about using mind maps for personal development. So if you put John Diggs or Mapineering in there, I like to identify myself as a Mapineering mentor because I'm here to really just mentor people on how to build their own tools for their personal development. You can find me anywhere, and if they reference your podcast, you just know they're going to get some extra love, extra attention. Just reference the mind map, reference being here. This is where you heard me, and anybody who has any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help. This is not a money project for me. This is a really a fulfilling, passionate project for me, God. I really love and I really want to impact people. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you guys have any questions or need any assistance with learning how to integrate mind maps into your life.
I love that. I love the passion projects. Those are the ones that really impact people. John,
Yes.
thank you so much. It's been a blast getting to sit down and talk with you for a little bit. I'd
Thanks
love to
for
do it
having me.
again sometime down the road.
Let's do it, brother. I'm here for you always, Brian. Thank you so much for having me.
Right on.